Yes, dear. Got some cough drops. Not yet. No. Okay, it's 4 o'clock. Excuse me. We will go ahead and begin our meeting. We'll call it to order. We always begin our meetings with the Pledge of Allegiance. If you could all stand, please. I believe the flag's behind you. Ready, begin. I pledge
I
allegiance.
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All righty. Item number 2 on our agenda is public comment. And comments from the public are invited at this time on topics not specifically addressed elsewhere in the agenda. There is a sign-up sheet is provided, and individuals that wish to address the board are asked to indicate their desire to speak and the topic which they will speak. Individuals wishing to address the board at this time will be limited to 3 minutes. Ross is our timekeeper here, so look up every so often. What is it? When it's yellow, it's.
2.5 minutes, yellow, 3 minutes.
I'm going to use your back.
And I'll let you finish your sentence, but then we will stop you. Not yet. Hang on a second. The board is precluded from acting on items raised during public comment that are not already on the agenda. One thing I do want to mention, if there's anybody new, is that on your public comment, we cannot, it's really hard for us, but we cannot answer any questions that you ask of us. So I don't want you to think that we're being rude. We just can't reply. So I'm going to turn this over real quick to our legal counsel, Rick. And he's going to explain because it's a little confusing with what we have on our agenda and what you're allowed to speak on. Okay, Rick.
Thank you, Madam President. So with respect to public comment, that's going to be a discussion on anything that's not on the agenda. You can talk about any topic that's not on the agenda. With respect to item 3, there's a consideration on taking corrective action that's pursuant to NRS 2410365. And then item 4 is if they pass that, then to reconsider agenda item number 14, which was at the November 9th meeting. So the statute is in the materials. Did Karen put them up in the front? Okay, so the statute's actually, I made a copy of the statute for consideration for anybody who wants to look at it. It is a okay. So the statute has been provided. If anyone wants to look at it, it is a process that is allowed over under the open meeting law. And it is a process to basically do a do-over if there's any alleged violation. And by going through this process, as stated under the statute, it's not admitting any wrongdoing, but it's really a chance to clean it up to the extent that there was any questions that were raised. Our board packet has the open meeting law complaint that was raised, so anyone can read that. And so it, from a standpoint of business practice, this is not an uncommon process to do. And that's what, as legal counsel, I went ahead and recommended that they do. In particular, one of the issues was whether or not there was discussion of a document that was not in the board packet. That is the Lyon County School District resolution. It was not in the board packet. And with that, you might as well put it in the board packet for this meeting and start over and discuss that again. So that is the process that I recommended. Again, for purposes of agenda item 2, public comment. If you want to talk about something that is not related to what is being considered in items 3 and 4, this is your time to do that. If you want to talk about the actual votes that may or may not occur on 3 and 4, you'll have another opportunity. So you have multiple opportunities for public comment. Okay.
Thank you, Rick. Okay, our first person that signed up was Mr. Bob. You could go ahead and state your name for the record.
Bob Russo for the record. The other day, I read an account of a young girl. She was around 5 or 6 years old who returned home from school showing signs of distress and depression. She turned to her mother and asked her if she was a bad person for being white. This story exemplifies the racial division that CRT promotes and its desire to place our children in boxes based on their skin color and to characterize them as the oppressors and the oppressed. I can only imagine how young children of color must feel when they are labeled as helpless victims in the hands of white oppressors who want to undermine their dreams and interests. CRT makes a false assertion that race is the primary defining characteristic of an individual and culture. If we allow this assertion to be introduced into the social studies programs in our schools, we will be responsible for raising a new generation of children living in a more divided and violent America where civil rights are discarded and the ideal of equality for all is trampled upon. I was interviewed by CNN a few weeks ago and asked why I attended school board and town hall meetings when I have no children of my own in school. I found the question short-sighted because anyone with a minimal understanding of critical race theory knows that it intends to extend its malicious tentacles far beyond our classrooms and into our American way of life. It aims to dismantle our culture by producing generations of young people who despise America, its culture, and capitalism, which, by the way, has raised more people out of poverty than any other system. Additionally, I feel strong concern for our children. I want to see them grow up with the same freedom and opportunity I've had the privilege of experiencing my entire life. To conclude, it's not a sign of strength or compassion to be tolerant of an ideology that in the end destroys our republic and opportunities that would be available to all our children. While promoting sound basics in education and accelerated learning programs, CRT and any vestige of it being endorsed as truth must be banned from our schools. As former New York City school board member Maud Murren recently said in an interview, you do not remedy past discrimination with present discrimination. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Next, we have Lynn. You could also please state your full name for the record, sir. They can talk about it.
It's only green when you push it. Lynn Muzzy. Parents and teachers should not be sabotaging each other's roles and responsibilities. Parents have an explicit duty not to undermine teachers by telling their kids that if math homework is too tough, just blow it off. Likewise, teachers have a duty not to indoctrinate students with any subject matter that is the parents' purview to discuss. Some school teachers and administrators think they have found a neat trick to justify violating that duty. Critical race theory is one of those woke examples of a Star Trek type shapeshifter. Get parents all worked up about CRT and then change the name and keep dishing out the woke propaganda. When I joined the Navy, between 40 and 50% of my shipmates were men of color. Nobody had to teach any of us 18 and 19-year-olds how to get along with each other. I suspect today's high school graduates are just as resourceful as we were. Teachers, stick to the basics and keep your political opinions to yourself. Thank you.
Thank you, Lynn. Next, we have Paul. You could go ahead, sir, and state your name for the record.
I'm Paul Jensen. I'm a school librarian in the district. 4 candidates won school board seats in Forest Hills, Ohio, running on an anti-critical race theory platform, replacing 4 out of 5 school board members. What's just this past summer. What's interesting is what happened in this Ohio school district mirrors almost exactly what's happening in Douglas County School District right now. Listen to this. On June 28th, the superintendent, Scott Prebles, responded to parents and students protesting critical race theory, claiming that it was not being taught in the schools. We've heard that, nor were there plans for it to be. One of the new school board members said this, quote, "We did a public records request on teacher training and teacher professional development because the district kept saying we are not teaching CRT to the kids," which they are not, we found out. But we also found out that they are teaching it to the teachers. Bod Bibb, one of the 4 new school board members, said this, quote, "I don't know why you would ever want to do that, but that was a wake-up call to us right there, because if you start separating teachers as oppressors, white people, versus oppressed people of color, it's only a matter of time before you start getting that to the kids." The Douglas County School Board was made fully aware of the critical race theory content in the book titled Culturally Responsive Teaching in the Brain, which is currently being used to train new teachers via the Douglas County School District Professional Development Department. This book alone should have been more than enough for this school board to adopt an anti-critical race theory policy similar to the one that Lyon County adopted. But some of you said you needed to see more blatant examples of CRT. So I dug into the other course that was taught starting in spring of last school year by our professional development department, titled ASAU Diversity, Equity, Inclusion Specialty Training. Some of the required modules for this course are online, and you can see them. Here are some of the modules. One of them, Citizenship and Social Justice, 11-step guide to understanding race and racism and white privilege, taught by our professional development department. Association of Educational Service, how to be an anti-racist educator, which includes a module on how to implement an anti-racist activity in classroom with the students, but yet you don't want it being taught to the students, but you're teaching us how to do it. Deconstructing White Privilege with Dr. Robin DiAngelo. Another module, Do More Than Acknowledge Your White Guilt. Another module, I Am a White Woman and I Must Confront My Racism. Another module, Towards a Concept of White Wounding. Another module, Racial Justice in Education. Another module from this course, Discuss Microaggressions. Another module from this course offered by the PD department, TED Talk, Bad White People by Travis Jones. So right now, the record reflects that all 7 board members voted to allow the professional development department in Douglas County School District to continue indoctrinating teachers with this racist garbage. I believe that some of you are in favor of adopting a policy like Lyon County's, but there's no public record of who any of you are. There should be a motion to vote on the adoption of the policy like Lyon County so that the Douglas County community has a record of where each of you stands on this important issue before the next school board elections.
Thank you, Paul. Next, we have Virginia. You could please state your name for the record.
No.
No, you're already signed in over here. Okay. Thank you, though.
Virginia Sterrett. My comment concerns the presence of CRT in Douglas County schools. The board says it's not there, yet it's in the school libraries, in the professional development and teacher training promoted by this board, in social emotional learning, or SEL, adopted by this board, and it is part of the foundation behind the cultural shift promoted in diversity, equity, and inclusion, or DEI, programs and policies. I'm astounded that a group of smart people dedicated to making this county's schools the best they can be would continue to maintain a stance so easily disproven. I would remind the board that it has actually been given tangible proof of CRT in the school libraries, professional development, and teacher training. Dismissing that proof because there is no mandate that any staff or teacher make use of the CRT materials doesn't pass muster. SEL was designed to be an open door for CRT and other social engineering schemes of the same ilk. Ed Week.
I want to remind you that I put faith for the kitchen.
Sorry. Ed Week is packed with suggestions on how teachers can use SEL lessons to focus on CRT. So just as you instruct me to go to every class every day in search of CRT, I say back to you that unless you go to every class every day, you cannot prove that CRT isn't in the classrooms, especially since that professional development and teacher training mentioned before includes instructions on how to bring CRT into the classroom. DEI, which coincidentally means God in Latin, is steeped in CRT. Absent the unlikelihood that this district is ignoring trendy DEI altogether, you've got CRT slipping in that too. Given the undeniable battle being waged on the progressive side of the spectrum to implant CRT and CRT-laced DEI everywhere, why would this board insist on turning a blind eye? No answer I can fathom puts the board in a positive light or will sit well with the majority of this community that doesn't want CRT anywhere near our students. Thank you.
Thank you, Virginia. Next, we have Jeannie. Please state your name for the record.
For the record, Jeannie Shizuru, I was going to ask the timekeeper to make sure not to start the clock until the person starts talking, not when they're getting from their chair. That's really great. I wanted to talk about the open meeting law violation complaint that I filed. I was kind of surprised to see it in the package. There's a place on the form that says, is it okay for us to release this complaint to the media? And I marked no. So in my opinion, and I'm really addressing this to the attorney, I really thought that that was a cry for privacy on that complaint. And now when he has explained why he put it in the package, because maybe it helped create this meeting, it still isn't right for him to open up to the public on the internet the private information that was on that open meeting law complaint. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Nicholas. Nicholas? Nicholas Mayer. Sorry, I don't have the news sheet yet. What are the chances, right? Could you please state your name for the record, sir?
Nicholas Meyer from Gardnerville. I want to note for the record that the recent Nevada Open Records request regarding communications between the Douglas County School Board and CNN detailed a very concerning collaboration between Superintendent Keith Lewis and CNN. Keith Lewis went out of his way to encourage CNN to come to our small community to create a news event to essentially support his position that CRT was not being taught in the Douglas County school system. This displays an incredible lack of judgment on the part of Superintendent Keith Lewis. Does Keith Lewis not know that CNN is a far-left propaganda news organization that has been sued for millions of dollars for libeling conservatives? Does Keith Lewis not know that CNN is a promoter of the tenets of critical race theory, specifically that America is a racist nation? Not only did Keith Lewis encourage CNN to come to our community, but he directed his trusted social justice lieutenants to line up and use our students as props to support his narrative. The fact is that Keith Lewis is playing a 3-card Monte with the parents and citizens of Douglas County. He says that CRT is not being taught in the curriculum, yet he knows that teachers are required to take classes in diversity, equity, and inclusion, which are all basic tenets of critical race theory. Online modules assigned to DSDA staff include the 11-step guide to understanding race, racism, and white privilege. YouTube, Deconstructing White Privilege with Dr. Robin DiAngelo. Huffington Post, do more than acknowledge your white guilt. And NEA, National Education Association Ed Justice, Racial Justice in Education. YouTube, discuss microaggressions. This board must adopt a firm policy of anti-discrimination and anti-transgenderism and eliminate teacher indoctrination and critical race theory. Otherwise, this superintendent and this board are a sham and a disgrace to this community.
Thank you. Next, we have James Mccaleb. James, please state your name for the record, sir.
James Mccaleb. I think everybody that's spoken has done a good job of speaking about CRT. I think it's more than that. I think the public's concern as the staff is bringing politics into the school. their politics. Part of a public school system is to prepare young people for the future. They don't need to be programmed on racial issues. You'll find they're generally better than most adults on that. They don't need to be told what to think, just how to think. Professionals know how to separate personal views from the workplace. We should expect this professionalism from all staff. Every available minute of education must go towards preparing students for the future. The word public implies that the schools belong to the community, not for anyone's personal political agenda on whatever part of the spectrum that falls. And my second thought, and I'll be brief, I'm on both an elected and appointed board, and I think I understand open meeting law. And I think it's incumbent on staff and the trustees to make sure they are aware of it and how it works. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Denise. Oh, she's here. You could go ahead and state your name for the record, please.
Denise Baronio. I don't have anything prepared to speak on tonight because sounds like everybody's done a good job. I think the frustration of the community is that there was an opportunity at the last meeting for this board to vote against teaching racism in the schools, and that wasn't what took place. I think that adopting something, and it almost sounded like between Rob and Doug, maybe something could have come forward to be adopted for a similar resolution to the Lyon County School District's resolution. I think that that is a no-brainer. I don't understand why the board wouldn't want to adopt a resolution that says, we agree to not teach racism. I read through the Douglas County or the Lyon County resolution. It seems pretty straightforward. It doesn't say we're not teaching history. It doesn't say we're not teaching exactly what happened 200 years ago, 300 years ago, 1,000 years ago, that the Indians also had Black slaves. I mean, nobody is disagreeing that those things should not be taught. I certainly hope that every piece of history that can be taught in the school district is taught in the school district, including anything that has to do with race. I think that what the community wants is for there to be a resolution that says that teachers and staff will not teach racism or anything that has to do with critical race theory. The definition for critical race theory is pretty black and white. I don't think that there's a fine line. Some people feel like, oh, there's a fine line. There's a lot of definitions. No, the creators of critical race theory made it very clear that it was to divide and to create a racist divide between the community, between children, between parents, and that is happening in this school district.
Yeah, hold on a minute.
So issued the mask.
Thank you. I'm sorry, Denise. Thank you for pausing. We'll let you continue.
I'll wait.
Okay, thank you. Excuse me.
No problem.
Okay. Thank you.
So going back to what I was saying, I don't think, and I certainly don't feel this way, and I have not talked to a single parent in this community who thinks that correct history, actual history, good, bad, and different shouldn't be taught. All history should be taught. And I don't think that the resolution would have anything to do with history not being taught or teachers not even being able to talk about race, because that isn't the case. Obviously, if you're talking about slavery, they're going to be talking about race. I think that the main idea with the resolution is to make sure that we aren't teaching critical race theory, which is hate, divisiveness, oppressors versus the oppressed. And I think that if the school district can come to a resolution similar to that or adopt the same thing Lyon County's is really great, that I think that you will have accomplished what the community is really seeking for, which is just to not teach critical race theory.
Thank you, Denise.
Madam President, let me just interject. I just want to make a reminder, this is for public comments on items not on the agenda. It's critical race theory in the abstract, great. Critical race theory in terms of what to vote on or what not to vote on, or the Lyon County model, that is more appropriately discussed in items 3 and 4, and you'll have your shot to talk then. So please keep it to matters that are not on the agenda.
Thank you, Rick. Okay, next person would be Mr. David Nelson. Could you please state your name for the record, sir?
David Nelson.
Thank you.
This is not going to be about critical race theory. It's going to be about faith. And the faith is the faith that this board has taken, that they believe that there is no critical race theory being taught in Douglas County. Now, that may or may not be true. I don't know. However, I wanted to say that we do have the Civil Rights Act of 1964, and it was updated in 1970 for people with handicaps, etc. In that, it's very specific about race, and that no race should be denigrated at any time. I believe that very fully, and I actually fought for that act in 1964. And I think that act actually means that critical race theory should not be taught anywhere, because when you make one race an oppressor, that is degenerating that race. And that is incorrect and should be against our law. And so nothing like that should be taught. I've listened to and read articles by people in this county reflecting on critical race theory, SEL, and DEI, and that there's an awful lot related between those three things. Now, I may say that I believe in God or I don't believe in God. Neither position can be held to the truth. We don't know. You have to take it on faith. And my thing here is that I sought to find out what the curriculum is of the different levels of school in Douglas County, and found out that each teacher sets their own. And if I wanted to know what the criteria, the curriculum for the teachers are, I'd have to go and sit in on every single class of every single teacher for a whole year to discover that. Now, I'm not sure, but I'm going to guess that none of you people on the board have done that. So in order for you to say there is no critical race theory being taught in Douglas County, you have to take it on faith. Now, I know that reading what I read and listening to what I listen to, that it's being pushed nationwide. There's no doubt about that. And so I think that you're taking this on faith is really a bad move. I think that maybe restating the Civil Rights Act of 1964, especially Title VI, which is on schooling, in a resolution might not be a bad thing to do, because you'd be making a statement to the public that you believe in civil rights and that no discrimination of any race would be taking place. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, I have Lisa. If you could also state your name for the record, please. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Lisa Schaefer, and I just had a few items that I wanted to bring to the board, which I know at the last meeting, it was addressed. This was not a parent issue, apparently, that parents just didn't attend. And I will say that we have attended. We are parents within the district. And I'd like the board not to diminish the fact that there are grandparents who are in attendance, as well as just community members. And we all have an vested interest in our children's future, because directly or indirectly, it affects us. And so I would just like you not to diminish those roles of people that are here. Also, in terms of it not being taught and it not being an issue in our district, if that's the case and it's not being taught and it's not an issue here, put our minds at ease, put it to rest, and let's take action as Lyon County did and adopt a stance against it formally so that this doesn't have to come back to us. Because I'm sure that everyone, as we are tired of the conversation. And, this is, all that we want as a family for our children is a safe and fair learning environment. That's all we want. I think that's all anybody in our community or communities across the nation want. And we just ask that you support us as parents, as community members, grandparents, everyone here, and officially take a position against critical race theory so that it's not in professional development and it's not trickling into our classrooms. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. Next, we have John. John Schaefer. State your name for the record, please.
My name is John Schaefer, and that was my wife who just spoke.
Mhm.
She's also speaking not only as a parent, but she is a teacher and she is a former administrator. And like she said, I think we're all really tired of dealing with this topic. But the one thing that we're not seeing resolution on here with the county is the fact that we still have books, we still have teacher professional development going on in our school district. And that's what we want the board to take a stance on. We don't want you to kick the can down the road. I think there was some fire taken out of many of the parents in the district when Superintendent Lewis said, it is not part of our curriculum. He sent out an email to every single person who had a child in school, said it's not part of our curriculum, it's not being taught. And that may be a letter of the law, truthful statement, but it is still being taught. If we have materials, we have professional development by teachers, and if we have other things by different acronyms, SEL, whatever else, that's just all playing games with semantics. So we want action on critical race theory and all the other junk that goes along with it being removed from this district. You guys have any questions of me with regard to that? Because we'll be back again. As much as we are tired of it, this is something that we're going to fight for, tooth and nail.
Thank you, John. Next, we have Keith. Mr. Cole. Please state your name for the record.
My name is Keith Cole, and I am the chairman of the Social Studies Department here at Douglas High School. This marks the third time that I've had an opportunity to speak with the board regarding this topic. And I think just for consistency, I would like to start my comments tonight the same way I began the other two times. We are not teaching critical race theory in the social studies classes at this high school. There is no CRT being taught, period. We teach to the state standards, the state content guides from the state of Nevada. We teach these standards with fidelity, with vigor, and with enthusiasm. And we do so because we know that these are the best tools that we have to ensure that when our students graduate from this high school, they are going to be productive and engaged citizens of this great country. And nowhere in the state's social studies standards does it say critical race theory. It is not suggested. It is not encouraged. It is not even hinted at. We are not independent contractors. I do not walk in, nor do the other teachers in my department come in and teach whatever we feel like on any given day. We teach to the state standards, and the state standards do not have critical race theory as a part of them. We are not teaching critical race theory, period. Now, last week, I know you all took a vote, and it was a unanimous decision to put this issue to rest. Mr. Engelkirk and other members of this board made public statements saying that they know that there are no critical race theories being taught in classrooms in this district. There was no evidence last week. There is no evidence this week that we are teaching it.
It is my sincere and honest hope that the vote will be the same. If there is no evidence last week, no evidence today, I hope that the vote will be the same. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Debbie. Please state your name for the record.
Hi, my name is Debbie Silva. I live here in Minden. I came to the last board meeting and I wanted to say that even though there is a alleged technical violation, I want to say that it was pretty clear to me what the board was giving us in terms of what we would be deciding at that board meeting. Unfortunately, some people left early to attend their own meeting on CRT. And if they had stayed, I think it would have been clear to them that the board was on the up and up and that they were simply going to discuss critical race theory and that they did follow a process. So I just want to say for the record that there are some among us who feel that the board is doing an excellent job and that the superintendent is doing a great job too. And that although there are some vocal loudspeakers here tonight, they don't speak for every parent. They certainly don't speak for the teachers who know they're not teaching critical race theory. And I also want to say that I think you're being asked by some people in the audience to engage in censorship. And it's very important that students be prepared for the world they're going to be going into in terms of work. It's important that they understand racism and they understand how not to violate the rules and regulations at their workplace. They will be, it will do them a disservice for them not to understand the important laws, regulations, and social issues around working with people of color and making sure they don't violate rules at work. So I just wanted to stand in support of the board.
Thank you. Next, we have Laura. There's not? Okay, thank you. Hi, would you please state your name for the record?
Laura Cadeau.
Thank you.
I'm here to support the board that I was at the last meeting and I approved the motion that you made. You spoke directly to my heart. I raised my daughter in this county. She went to kindergarten through 12th here. I made a conscious choice to put her in the public school system because I felt that public school teachers would teach facts and truth and not wander into belief systems. Coming from a private education, I didn't want her to be exposed to anything but the facts. And I feel like that is what she received in this community. And I'm grateful to all the teachers that she had. And I just wanted to continue to support you. And I heard all of you say at the last meeting that CRT is not being taught here. And you voted 7-0. And I support that motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Laura. Okay, we'll go online. John? Okay.
Leslie Hokinson.
Leslie? Are you there? I'll let him do it.
She's muted.
Okay. Can you hear me? I don't know.
Can you please state your name for the record before you begin?
Okay, my name is Leslie Hokinson and I live in Minden. And I'm sorry, I would be there in person with Laura and all those other gals, but I had major surgery and I won't be walking for the next 3 months. Anyway, I'm sorry it took me 36 minutes to get on. This has been very frustrating, but I'm finally on it. I don't know what's been said before. I was stunned, shocked, angry that you guys are having to do this again. You already did your vote 7-0. I don't know if this was a technicality or why you're having to do this again. I support your vote 7-0. I'm sorry you're having to go through this again. I'm sorry I missed the beginning of the meeting, but I couldn't get on it. I don't think you should have to be doing this again, and I don't know the reason for it. But I back you 100%. You're 7-0, and I hope that stands. I hope, like I say, I don't know what's happened. I don't know if you were pressured into this because some people didn't like the results. And if so, that really makes me sad. You already did your vote. People should accept it. And thank you very much.
Thank you, Leslie. Next, we have John Glover.
Good evening. Thank you, President Gilkerson. I didn't intend to talk when I came to the meeting tonight, but I think it's important for you guys to hear my experience. Before I do that, let me give you a little background. I'm a 5th generation Nevadan. Family was born in a long time ago in Elko County, homesteaders up there. I was raised as a conservative, which I don't share with people because I was a teacher. And I was always believed that I should keep those kind of things out of the classroom. My greatest goal every year was that kids never figured out what my political affiliation was. I taught US government and US history here at this high school for 19 years. And at the end of the year, for my seniors, they always like to try to guess, was Mr. Glover a Democrat or is Mr. Glover a Republican? And if I could get them to be 50-50, I thought I had a great year. When the CRT thing came up, I had to ask people what it was. I did not know what CRT was. Sure, I heard it on the news. And if you come to my home tonight, Fox News will be on, not CNN. And I still didn't know what it was. I taught with dozens of social studies teachers at this high school throughout those 19 years. We never had a conversation about it. It's not what we did. CRT, in my 19 years of being at Douglas High School, and I know it's a newer thing, didn't exist. We didn't talk about it. We taught to the standards. We talked about unpacking standards. We talked about what the changes in scope and sequence were. We did not spend, in my 19 years at Douglas High School, 1 minute discussing what CRT was or teaching it for that fact. So I wanted to tell you that, give you a little background because I'm not the left-wing teacher that I think sometimes gets portrayed. I vote Republican in almost every election, unless there's something weird. And so I want to tell you that I am a Nevadan. I am a member of, I've been in Douglas County a long time, and that's not going on. And so as a conservative, as an educator, I think you guys needed to hear that. So thank you.
Thank you, John. Next, we have Greg. Greg, if you could state your full name for the record, please.
Yeah, my name's Greg Thetford, one of the assistant principals here that oversees social studies. Just want to touch base and echo what Mr. Cole said. I've been in the classrooms a number of times this year and last year as well, and have never once heard the word CRT. Got 3 kids in this district. One's here with me, one's at CVMS, and one's at Minden Elementary School. What I will say is this is my 5th district to be in over the course of 19 years. The teachers y'all have in this district are by far some of the best I've ever seen. So great job on hiring the teachers here and putting them in places to educate students. In my experience, the classes I've been in has always been outstanding, whether it's here, whether it's observing other schools within the district. So with that being said, I think it's impressive what y'all have done here as a school district, as an administration, and I'm proud to have my kids in this district learning what they're learning, because when they come home at night, I feel like they're getting a true education, and it's been very nice to see. So thank you all for your work. I especially thank the administration for the work they've done in putting in place a system where kids can be successful. So thank you.
Thank you. Is there anything else up there? Anybody online, John?
I have a
Sorry.
Casey Rogers online.
All right. We'll go ahead and take Casey next, and then I think there's just one on there maybe. Casey, are you there?
Can you hear me?
Barely.
That's all I can. Can you hear me now?
Yep, that's better. Can you go ahead and state your name for the record, please?
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you. Can you state your name for the record?
Casey Rogers for the record.
Thank you.
This is more for the public right now. This is just to say, what are your kids learning in school? Take a hard look at the curriculum. Ask administrators if they endorse the 1619 project. Are they pushing a diversity, equity, and inclusion agenda? Demand to see what materials are being taught in your biology, science, history, all of it. Attend your local PTA, attend your school board meetings. Look for allies among reasonable, like-minded parents. That they must take responsibility for their conduct. That race is the least important aspect of another person. That hard work and rational thought are things we all value. That America was founded not to promote racism, but to guarantee sacred liberties and opportunities to its citizens. I just wanted to make sure that you guys understand that the critical race theory, I don't think a lot of even the board member understands it, because a lot of times this is stuff taught in sociology courses. And I just feel like you guys are missing some things that are currently happening in the world out there. Everything that you're doing in there and promoting to your teachers is just same thing as teaching it to our kids, in my opinion. Because if you're trying to promote it in any way, it's being taught, whether it's to your teachers, whether it's to your staff members, whether it's to the kids. And I think that needs to be looked at. When you're talking about racism and talking about white privilege and teaching them the new things, I personally have taken a lot of sociology courses and I know a lot about CRT. This is if you look in the world that we're living in right now, it's more about a communist takeover than any time in our life's history. It's happened throughout history. People have died time and time again for it. They keep trying to promote it and get a full communist takeover. America is the last stand. America's freedoms and liberties are at stake. So I just wanted to make that statement clear, that you all consider the fact that when you start teaching it to your teachers or indoctrinating anybody into thinking that white privilege exists, that any of this stuff's happening, you're actually siding with the communist agenda. That is all.
Thank you.
I have one more online too.
And I have, okay, I'm going to go to Amy next. If you could go ahead, please, and state your name for the record.
Amy Sando. I've been teaching for 29 years and I've taught for Douglas County School for 26 years. There's two specific things I want to address. One is teacher training. I am a teacher. I go through teacher training. We have all sorts of PDC. We have dozens of workshops that we can choose from, and none of the choices match the things that are being said here tonight. And I keep hearing CRT. There's no workshops about CRT. You've had two teachers in the social studies department also already address this. So the last speaker just brought up 1690. Nope, never heard it. I know what it is because I hear about it in the news and I read about it. So to be accused, for our admin to be accused that they're bringing this, they're teaching it to the teachers. As a teacher, I'm going to say that that's false. For people to tell me as a teacher, telling me what I'm teaching when I'm not, my colleagues aren't, this is not part of our PDC. I know because I go through PDC training. I see there's no secret. I'm like, I'm sorry. Am I a teacher here? But I'm just unaware of these other workshops that are out there floating around. That's teaching CRT, teaching to the teachers. I'm a teacher here. I know what I am teaching. I know what the training is. And it's very frustrating to hear so many people telling us that this admin and Mr. Lewis in particular, that, this is what they're teaching us. I teach her, I know what it is. The other thing about the curriculum, we do not teach our own individual curriculum. Again, Mr. Cole brought up, we're not individual contractors. Regarding the state standards, that's exactly what teachers have to look at. If I want to teach a unit, that's the very first thing that we have to do. And as any of these people out here can attest, they have access to all of the state standards. You guys have access to all of the state standards. That's the first thing we have to do. So I don't understand why we'd be being accused of trying to sneak it into the curriculum outside of those state standards. I work with the English department, the grade levels work together. We don't go off on our own and teach. Our units we are with our fellow colleagues in planning our curriculum, in planning our units. And again, we have to go back to the state standards. So I don't understand why there's this paranoia that we are sneaking it into. First of all, it's being taught to me. It's being that I'm taking training with CRT and all these other terms that it might be hidden under. Again, I teach her. Why are we not being listened to as teachers? Why are these people not talking to the teachers directly instead of one book that one librarian claims?
Thank you. Got it? Oh, we got one more online.
One more online. Amanda, and she didn't put a last name.
Okay. Amanda, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you please state your name for the record?
Yes, my name's Amanda Lacka. I'm actually also a teacher. I teach at Carson Valley Middle School. Let's see. Well, I've been teaching for 11 years now. I've also taught English and social studies. I'm teaching US history right now. I absolutely love it. I grew up in Douglas County. I went through all of our schools. I can tell you that there's certainly been no huge cultural shift from the time that I'm a student until now. I mean, obviously things change and the world around us develops and whatever, but I can assure you that the basics that people keep talking about, reading, writing, and arithmetic, that's still the focus of our education system and our curriculum here in Douglas County. I want to compliment the board. You guys heard concerns in the community about CRT. You looked into them. I personally met with several board members and I was interviewed and I talked about what I teach in my classroom. Then the board wanted to make sure the community's thoughts were heard and were valued. So you had town hall meetings. I feel like you did everything that you should do to do due diligence and make sure that you're really looking into what is a community concern. I can tell you that we have administrator visits in our classrooms all the time. They're not always scheduled. Sometimes they're dropping in. So when people talk about, oh, are you in the classrooms? Our admins, they are in the classrooms. They see us teaching on a regular basis, often unannounced. We teach to the Nevada state standards, as Mr. Cole and Ms. Sando already pointed out. But I just want to reiterate, it's not just at the high school, at the middle school level, at every single level. We're professionals, we have integrity, we follow our standards. And finally, if people want transparency and they want to know what we're doing, ask your students. We have Google Classroom. Our assignments and what we ask our kids to read and do are not secret. You can have your kid pull it up tonight. We have learning plans that anyone can access. You know, I don't like public speaking, except to my kids, but this is important. And I didn't want anyone to interpret our silence as teachers to be, you know, some sort of admission of guilt. I'm proud of my classroom. I love my students. I want them to learn and grow as academic students, but also as people. And I can assure you, we are not teaching CRT. And I just thank the board. I thank Superintendent Keith Lewis and all of my fellow teachers who spoke tonight. So thank you.
Thank you, Amanda. Any more hands? Any more signatures? All righty. That's the end of public comment. We'll move on to item number, where are we? Number 3. All right. Item number 3 is the consideration of corrective action pursuant to NRS 241.0365, an action previously taken by the Board of Trustees on November 9th, 2021. Does anybody want to, go ahead, Doug.
I don't know if you want me to explain again.
Okay, go ahead.
I
Please do.
explained at the beginning.
Go ahead.
The recommendation
Doug.
from my office, legal counsel, is after receiving the open meeting law complaint, there's enough gray area. We're not admitting any violation, but the path of least resistance is to consider whether or not you want to utilize the process under NRS 241.0365 and decide whether you want to rescind the vote from November 9th and do it again and restate it after having the actual Lyon County Board resolution in the materials and maybe framing your motion a little bit different to focus on the process used to address critical race theory. So that was the recommendation of my office. And so I apologize if that causes this inconvenience to everybody having to redo it. But to me, I think it's still a path of least resistance. It's an easy way, it's an easy fix, and it's allowed under the statute. So thank you.
Thank you, Rick. Okay, we'll move it over to Doug.
Make a motion that we rescind the vote and the motion from last meeting.
Okay, motion was made by Doug, seconded by Rob. Sorry. Is there any other comments from the board? We'll call for public comment before we vote. Virginia, I think you had signed up for it, right? Okay. Sure. Yeah, let's do it that way. Just please go ahead, because we're recording. Go ahead and state your name again if you don't mind.
Virginia Starrett.
Thank you.
Upon hearing that the board had decided to do nothing at present about CRT, I got upset. Added to that, the complete lack of any real discussion or serious consideration of the wealth of information, arguments, and warnings put forth at the town halls was beyond dismaying. Could a board more clearly thumb its nose at the community it was supposed to represent? Shouldn't a number of contrary points have been brought up and at least acknowledged and declared inadequate or mistaken, even if those on the other side of the issue probably wouldn't accept the reasoning offered? But that didn't happen. There was no conversation with the community conducted by this board on CRT. There was only a kabuki show to satisfy the masses. It's as if, for some reason, the board was determined to run away from a moral and ethical responsibility by insisting there is no elephant in this room, while a 6,000-pound pachyderm stood right in front of them. Let's say, for argument's sake, that not a smidgen of CRT is being taught in Douglas County schools. When is the best time to prepare your house and yard against fire? When the roof is already burning or well in advance? It's the same for CRT. The advocates for CRT have been very successful in establishing its presence and power in much of corporate America and much of the federal government at present. More to the point, it doesn't take long to discover it permeates the educational world. CRT is a current wildfire. If it's not already here, it's coming, and it's coming fast. CRT is 100% racist and 100% progressive politics. Why would any board be adverse to putting in writing that it opposes racism and that far left social engineering and won't tolerate it in the schools it oversees? Is it funding, cowardice, arrogance, fear of what it would have to do to comply with such a stand because CRT is deeply embedded already?
a realization that CRT and its cousins are so entrenched that complying would be impossibly costly and go against the educational left-leaning establishment? I don't know the answer, but whatever it is, it adds up to a betrayal of what this community stands for. No one here is implicating this board or school as being not good people or not a good school. What we're trying to do is keep it that way, and you keep insisting on ignoring us. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Please state, I know you've already stated, but if you state it again for the record.
For the record, Jeannie Shizuru, I am the one that filed the open meeting law complaint. And I want to say that the discussion has changed. It's no longer, are we teaching the students in their classrooms? Are the teachers doing that? It has changed, are we teaching the teachers? And there's a lot of information out there in the country and in Douglas County. I have filed one FOIA request to find out about that DEI class that Paul Jensen brought up in his video. But and I'm expecting an answer on that one, I guess today or tomorrow, the deadline, Mr. Shu. And there's many more other classes and grants and other things that have happened on the subject over the last couple of years. These teachers that have retired several years ago or, no longer teach here, we all have passed, but we're talking about the present right now, as Virginia just said. So I will be asking for more information about all of the training materials and grants, etc., that have been received in Douglas County, because at this point, this is where the argument is going, that all the districts that have concerns about it, all the parents and citizens that have concerns about it want to find out how much material has been brought into the school district. It's premature. It was premature on November 9th, and it's premature today for you to make a decision about what is the status in Douglas County when you don't know how much material has actually come into your district and been paid for. I didn't really appreciate that Superintendent Lewis wanted to do this correcting meeting before the December 14th, because obviously if you're just regular people asleep at the wheel, you're thinking that you're not going to have some special meeting on Thanksgiving week, but that's what's happened. I think you guys need to think about what you did on November 9th, and also you do not still have enough information about what is or isn't in Douglas County. And the new slogan is, what are the teachers being taught? All of the materials, all of the costs, and that's where the whole country is bearing down right now to find out. Thank you.
Thank you. I know. Hang on one second.
Look, I want to remind everybody that there is a pending vote, and you should be addressing the vote. And that's the nature of what the law is you can vote, you can have public comment on the vote. So please try to focus on the vote.
Go ahead and state your name for the record, please.
So public comment just regarding how you guys are going to vote, and then there's public comment again afterwards. Is that correct?
That is correct.
So if I don't want to have public comment on the vote, should I sit down and come back?
Sure.
Okay.
This is about the vote. The vote to rescind.
I'm sorry, the vote.
This is about the vote to rescind. If you want to speak about the vote to rescind, the next item is we're going to vote again. So if you want to save your comments for before we vote on the next one, that would be.
So if I want to encourage you not to rescind, then
That would be now.
That would be now.
Okay.
You're good. It's on topic. Thank you.
My name is Martha Betcher. I'm a former employee of the school district. I've spent 17 years working in the library at Carson Valley Middle School, where Paul Jensen now works. So just to put me in context, my daughter attended school here first grade through graduation from high school. She's been a very successful graduate, and I think that I think Douglas County does wonderful things. And I just wanted to voice my support for the previous decision on the board's part. And this might be a good time to talk about that. I think the fact that you had 4 teachers tonight that spoke about CRT is not here. I feel like it's sort of a combination of Groundhog Day and Chicken Little, the sky is falling. I don't have a lot to say. I did not prepare statements. Somebody let me know that this was going on at 2:30 this afternoon, and I was going about my business and decided to stop by and see what I could come up with. You know, our kids are everybody's children that go to the public system here are entering the world. They're not going to necessarily stay in Gardnerville and Minden, and it's a large world out there. And I think our school district does a great job of preparing our students for that experience. So I want to say, stay the course. I want to say, do not rescind your vote. And thank you all for what you do.
Thank you, Martha. Yes. And this is about the rescinding the vote.
And we have a couple online.
What did we just say? Oh.
Will agenda item 4 still come before this body, or will that negate agenda item 4?
It would, it's up to the board, but in my view, it would moot the need to have number 4.
Repeat what the vote was about, that they're voting to rescind.
Yeah, yes,
Yeah, so if they reaffirm that vote, doesn't that logically negate
yes,
the item 4
yes.
on this agenda? So if you're turning down people from being able to talk about this because they can look forward to talking on agenda item 4, they're not going to have that opportunity if the vote is taken now and you decide to that you took before. I just want to point that
No,
out.
what you're suggesting, what you're coming here for public comment on this agenda item is the motion that is pending before the board, which is to rescind agenda item 14. That's what you should be coming up for this point. You're going to have 3-4 opportunities for public comment. That is what this public comment opportunity is. If this is voted down, you're right. There's probably no need for number 4, but you also have agenda item 5, which is public comment. So. I'm just telling you what the law is.
Okay, go ahead. Thank you for waiting. If you could go ahead and state your name for the record, please.
Good evening. My name is Dana Engelkirk, and thank you very much, Ginger, for that clarification. It was very much needed. I was at the last board meeting, and I am very thankful for another chance to have the resolution talked about, because I was in the audience, and while trustee Engelkirk was presenting the Lyon County information, I could not hear him. There was a number of people whose microphones weren't working at different times. And I went home and I was like, I could not hear the information. It was very valuable. And I had researched it on my own, and I was also aware a lot of the people that could really benefit from hearing the information about that resolution were not in the room. There just seemed to be a lot of confusion about, just like now, like when can we make a statement, when can we not? So I'm just very grateful for this chance to revote and get the actual resolution in for the whole community to see it and understand. Thank you. You guys are great.
Great. Please state your name for the record one more time, or at least this time.
These things bother hearing aids, by the way. Dave Nelson. I just wanted to add a couple of things to my opening comments. One is, I think it's very wise to trust but verify, and I don't know how you verify whether or not CRT is being taught in the school system here. Yes, I am.
Okay, you got to stick to number
So
3.
I think you should vote to rescind for a lot of reasons. I'd like to bring up one very good one. When I served on the Board of Commissioners here in Douglas County, we had a law written by the legislature that was against the Second Amendment, and it was found to be so, and other things. But the point was, the citizens of Douglas County wanted assurance from the Board of County Commissioners that we would stand behind them when it comes to the Second Amendment. Now you have citizens of Douglas County coming before you, asking you to rescind what you did and to come up with some kind of an agreement that will bring us back together. This country is very divided, as we all know, and Douglas County has a wonderful reputation of working out our problems. I think you're shoving it under the carpet by doing what you did. And I think that you should open it up and let's do something that we can all feel comfortable with. I don't think anybody is in agreement with CRT, no matter which side you're on in Douglas County. Supposedly you're not teaching it, that's great. But we want some assurance from this board that it will not ever be taught in Douglas County. Thank you.
Thank you. State your name for the record, please. Oops, I'm not on. State your name for the record, please.
Denise Baronio. Since this is in regards to whether or not you guys are going to rescind, I'll go ahead and speak. Because I'm going to speak of some personal instances that happened with my children in the school district. I have a son that graduated last year from Douglas High School. I still have a daughter here in Douglas High School, and I have 2 stepchildren at Scarcelli Elementary School. I have had the opportunity with Mr. Lewis, Rami Cronin Mack. I've met with several of the school board members to talk about CRT. I have appreciated that very much. I think everyone's been very open. I've looked at material in the school district. I haven't looked at everything, but I've looked at a lot. I don't think overwhelmingly that CRT as it is defined is being taught in the school district currently. There are some questionable, maybe gray areas in psychology. I do know that the state standard for social studies or for history says that it teaches social justice. That is part of the definition of critical race theory. I don't know where social justice is being taught or not taught in the school district or how that's being taught, but I do know that that is part of the state standard. I have a few examples. There is or was, I don't know if the poster's still here, a poster that talked about genders, different genders here at the high school on one of the walls in front of the English teacher's classroom. I like the English teacher. I think she's a great teacher. She said that it was there because she wants to be inclusive. I said, well, then put a MAGA sticker next to that and see how inclusive the other kids feel. She kind of saw my point. I said, it's not about teaching sexuality. Acceptance is one thing, but to say that there's more than one gender is biologically untrue. So that's offensive to my kid, just like maybe a MAGA sticker would be offensive to somebody else's child. Recently, last week, social emotional learning survey was given out to Scarcelli Elementary School. It asked how you identify as a male or a female. My stepdaughter was told she had to take this because her parents had not opted out. She did not want to take it. She was told she had to because of that reason. She immediately called after she got out of school. She was very upset. She said, I don't want to take the survey. We've had this conversation at home. But we don't recall getting any kind of email saying that we had the opportunity to opt out. My son, 3 years ago, I came to the school board quickly, and I will be done, and said that politics were being discussed in history at a very high level. And he was being discouraged from discussing how he felt politically. But this teacher was definitely interjecting his political beliefs. The school board changed their policy and made it a little bit stricter. And so that seems to have kind of curbed that issue. But there was another issue back in 2016. I know of a teacher here at the high school who mourned for a week and wore black to school and openly told her students that she was mourning because Hillary Clinton lost the election. So those are examples of it being taught here without it being on the curriculum.
And could you please state your name for the record?
My name is Yvonne Wagstaff.
Thank you.
I have two students that graduated from Douglas High. I have a senior this year, a sophomore, an 8th grade, and a 4th grader. I have a vested interest in what's being taught in the school. I don't think social and emotional learning is necessary, but I do think it's important to teach kids how to deal with their feelings.
I'm sorry. This item was about our
Right.
sending our vote.
Yes.
Okay, you're going to wrap it around that?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
So yes, I think that we need to rescind what was, and we need to adopt what Lyon County has, but we need to add to it so that we're not teaching our teachers that these are things that they need to be including in class. We need to go broader. Thank you.
Thank you. Please state your name for the record again. And again, we're talking about the rescinding of our vote.
Nicholas Meyer from Gardnerville. I want to encourage the board to rescind their vote from last time. The community has brought forth a lot more information about what classes are available for professional development. And it's clear if you look at those classes that there is CRT components in those. Also, how much more evidence do you need that social emotional learning and sending out surveys to young children, asking them, do they identify as a male or a female? How much more evidence do you need that this type of Marxism and progressive critical race theory is being brought into our school? You're actually asking young children to tell you how they identify as a male or a female? This is completely inappropriate. And you need to rescind and you need to adopt a policy like Lyon County that is anti-discrimination, anti-transgenderism, and does not foist emotional decisions on young children that are completely inappropriate.
Ew. Okay, that's the end of that comment. We'll go
I
ahead.
have
We have
4 online.
Oh, okay, sorry. Let's go ahead and take the first one then. Sorry about that.
Cynthia Mahoodian.
Cynthia, are you there? Cynthia, can you hear me?
Yes, I had to unmute. It takes a second.
That's okay. Hey, can you go ahead, please, and state your name for the record? And then again, your comments need to be wrapped around our item number 3, where we're deciding whether we're going to rescind our vote.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good evening, members of the board. My name is Cynthia Mohuden, and I live up in State Line, and I just found out about this meeting, not in time to make it down there. I am speaking to oppose the motion to rescind. I attended the meeting on November 9th, in which the board voted 7-0 not to ban critical race theory, and I thank the board for that decision. There was ample opportunity to give public comment. I was one of the people that did so, and people spoke for and against, and the board was very gracious to everyone that spoke, and I appreciated that. This opposition to critical race theory is really a political, it's a political hate nugget, for lack of a better word. It is the only explanation for this is race baiting, and critical race theory is the latest placeholder to summon white fear and is being used as a ploy to win elections. And the fact that you're doing this again is clearly evidence of that. It is a ploy to suggest that all of a sudden history teachers are indoctrinating students against white people, but they are these people are aggressively The opposition to critical race theory is an aggressive denial that white supremacy continues to exist. And I think the board should once again do what it did last time and listen to the parent that spoke in opposition to the ban, listen to the teachers that have spoken today. And I would encourage you to not rescind your vote. And I also want to state in response to one of the other people that spoke, the Lyon County resolution was amply discussed that day. I had never heard of it before, but I left there with a good understanding. The trustee that spoke about that had his opportunity to say his piece, and it was clear what was being discussed. And the board correctly noted that the proposal to ban critical race theory is censorship, and I appreciated the recognition of that. And I would again ask you not to rescind your vote. Thank you very much for your time this evening.
Thank you, Cynthia. Okay, who do we have next, John?
We have Mary Porter.
Mary, can you hear me?
Hold on.
That's okay. Excuse me.
Mary, can you hear us?
Mary? Mary, you might have your mute button on. Can you hear us now? We still can't hear you. Hello? John, do we want to move on to the next and maybe Mary can work on that? Is that possible?
Next, we have Leslie
Okay,
Hokinson.
Leslie, are you there? Give you a minute to unmute. Leslie?
Leslie just lowered her hand.
Oh, okay. Who's next? Is that it? All righty. Okay. Oh. Leslie, can you hear me?
Oh, sorry. That's
okay.
I'm so sorry.
We can hear you now. Can you go ahead and state your name
Hi,
again for the
Leslie
record?
Hokinson. I live in Minden. I totally agree with what Cynthia just said. This is all boiling down to politics, which is extremely sad. Please do not rescind your votes. If you do, you are giving in to being browbeated by people that don't agree with you, and not everyone's always going to agree with each other. But there's a saying that if you get told the same lies over and over, in 2 months, you believe it. And that's what I'm afraid is going to happen here, is these people are going to keep saying the same thing over and over again, which are lies, and that people believe it. Now, as I recall at the last meeting, when your vote or after the vote, I can't remember which, it was stated by one of you at this meet, I believe you're at this meeting, that if there were any red signs or anything that came up, that this would be opened again. And that's how I think it should be. I think your vote should stand. Please stay firm and don't be browbeated by politics. Thank you.
Thank you, Leslie. How are we doing over there, John? Anybody else?
I have Lynn Faulkner.
Okay. Lynn, can you hear me?
Lynn, you're muted.
Lynn? Hello, Lynn? Are you there? Is she still there, John, with her hand up?
Yeah, she's still there.
Maybe she's trying to mute or unmute, excuse me. Oh, darn.
Nope, she's still muted.
Lynn, I don't know if you know, but you're still muted. Are you able to unmute? Nothing? Okay. I'm sorry, but we're going to have to move on. Thank you. Okay. Anybody else?
That's it at this time.
Okay. Okay. So we have a motion made by Doug. Do we need to? Huh? And I know it was second by Rob. Do we need to refresh our memories? Or we all did? Go ahead, Rob.
Yeah, I'd say a couple things about this. I want to address a couple things that were said. Why are we meeting now, instead of December 14th? Our meeting was November 9th. Need to take care of it within 30 days. By waiting until December 14th, we're out of that 30-day period. Are you not hearing me? I apologize. So why are we doing this now, today, instead of the December 14th meeting? The Attorney General has a pamphlet. You can read it online. It talks all about the open meeting law. And if there's an alleged violation, one of the remedies is to rehear it within 30 days. But you have to do it within 30 days. So December 14th is longer than 30 days after November 9th. So that's why we're doing it now. This was a busy week. The administrators were busy. At first, it looked like the only time we could do this was at like 9 a.m. tomorrow morning. But we didn't want to do that because that's when people are working. So administrators moved some stuff around and we were able to do this at our normal time at 4 p.m. And I think that's good so that people could be here. I think there were some issues with the way that our agenda item was written. And I want to give a little history here real quick. At the end of every single meeting, we have an agenda item called future agenda items. And at that point, anybody can bring up an idea. So several months ago, Doug asked that we look into CRT, and that was seconded. Anytime that happens in that process, we refer to that item as a future agenda item. Even in our current agenda item. And I see how this is jargon we use that I can see is confusing for the public. Because even in our agenda item, it'll say we are talking about future agenda item X, although we're talking about it right now. And so that's confusing because it sounds like it's going to be a future agenda item. So I think we need to clean that up, and we've talked about that. We need to make sure things are clear to the public. The other thing is how this is written to discuss the process of critical race theory. When we started this, it was the whole board agreed that we wanted to have a standing agenda item where we could address what we're doing about critical race theory. That standing item could either be a discussion item or an action item. Those action items could be anything from let's do more town halls to let's do a survey to whatever, or let's make a policy or let's not make a policy. That was our intent with that standing item. And I agree that wasn't clear. And so that's why I think we should rescind this vote, because it wasn't exactly clear what we were going to be able to do in that meeting. So I think we need to clean up the language on future agenda items and make sure that it's known that we're doing that right now. And I think we should all vote to rescind this because of the questions and the confusion that was on that agenda.
Thank you, Trustee Lehman. Trustee Engelkirk.
I too think obviously I made the motion. I think we should rescind the vote. And I obviously think we should rescind the motion rescind the vote because I made the motion. My concern is at the last meeting, my intention was to bring up some sort of a motion to adopt the Lyon County resolution. And when the motion to do no action came up, and I could see that at least 5 members were going to support that, I felt like I was just shut down from even able to bring up what I had hoped to bring up in regards to future legislation or some sort of a framework that we could use to address this issue. So I would hope that we could rescind this issue so we can revisit that. Thank you.
Any other comments? No? Okay, then I guess we'll bring it to a vote. All those in favor of rescinding our item number 3, say aye.
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 Aye. Item 14.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Okay, rescinding item, yes, number 14. Carrie, you're a yes? Okay.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Anyone opposed? Seeing not, motion passes 6-0. Thank you. Now we're going to move on to item number 4, which is the reconsideration of agenda item number 14. Okay. The process for addressing critical race theory, its discussion and for possible action. First, I'll take any comments from the board. Trustee Engelkirk?
Okay, so before we get started here, there were some comments. I never said there was no evidence of CRT in the previous meeting. And the motion that was taken was to take no action, not that there wasn't CRT in our district. That was my impression when I voted for that, was that we were taking no action, not that there was no evidence, or not that we were not in the future going to take action. And I'm appreciating the fact that we are in the future and we can take action if we want to. So whether CRT is in our district or not, and whether it's subtly in here, subliminally below the surface, or whether it's blatant here, I'm not going to argue that point right now. But I don't know why we can't have something like the Lyon County legislation that would bring up the points of the United States or the state of Nevada is fundamentally or irredeemably racist or sexist. That should not be something that is taught in our district. An individual by virtue of race, sex, ethnicity, religion, color, or national origin is inherently racist, sexist, oppressive, whether consciously or unconsciously. That obviously should not be taught, or I can't see why anyone would oppose that. Any individual by virtue of sex, race, ethnicity, religion, color, or national origin should not be blamed for actions committed in the past by other members of the same sex, race, ethnicity, religion, color, or national origin, or an individual's moral character is necessarily determined in whole or in part by his or her sex, race, ethnicity, religion, color, or national origin. Those are the 4, what I consider the bullet points in the Lyon County resolution. And whether there's CRT or anything, any vestige of it in our district, I don't know why we can't have something like that as a legislation in our district. I don't think that's going to cause teachers not to be able to teach what they teach. They can teach history. We just can't teach that so-and-so is an oppressor and so-and-so is a victim. I mean, that's pretty much what this says. So I would like to make a motion on that, but I'll wait for a little more discussion if that's appropriate. Being new to the board, I don't know.
You can I talk?
Sure, go ahead.
You can make a motion whatever you want. We all, as long as
Okay.
it's agenda, we usually let everybody talk first, but
Okay.
that's,
Well, what happened at the last meeting is we talked and then all of a sudden a motion came that anyway, so I will let everybody talk and then I'll make a motion. if I
Heather,
may.
did you want to add anything? I'll just go around the horn here.
Sure. I feel that when we made this motion last time, what we were saying is that we already have things in place that will take care of if we have problems with things being taught that refer to CRT. That we were saying we already have things in place that say you cannot teach your political views, that you teach everything right down the middle. That we have ways to be aware of what our teachers are teaching, and it's not a part of the standard. So the vote that we took last time, I feel like was saying we have policies in place that will take care of this. And so that's what we're going to stick with. And that we trust our teachers are following the standards and following the policies that we have in place. So I don't think we were voting to say that, like we don't hear what everyone is saying. We were saying we already have policies in place that will take care of this. I feel like that's kind of what our previous vote was about.
Thank you. Trustee Lehman, go ahead.
sure. If you don't mind, I wouldn't mind just having a small discussion with Doug for my topic. I've looked through the Lyon County thing and I agree with all those points. Like I agree that we shouldn't be teaching those things as fact. When I talked with teachers and I asked, are there any unintended consequences that this resolution or policy might have? A couple of things were brought up, and it said, one of the things here says it'll never be taught that an individual by virtue of their race is superior or inferior to any other race. The teacher said, well, there were times in our history when that was kind of believed, right? In our history that was believed. And so would the unintended consequence be that we can't talk about that? Or are we talking about specifically saying, we're not teaching, we don't agree, you can't teach that's going on now? Do you see what I'm saying? Do you see what that teacher's concern was? Is there are things in here that we have improved upon as a society. We've moved forward. And so I agree that this is where we are now, but it may not have been where we were in the past. And their concern was that discussion cannot be open then about where we were in the past. So can you tell me what your thoughts are on that?
I guess my thoughts would be that we teach the history. We can teach at one time, certain races were considered better than other races and people were considered second-class citizens. I think, maybe we need to sit down and look at the Lyon County resolution with Rick Shu here and determine how we can word it in such a way that we're not teaching it now. We're not saying, look, you're better than this other race, or you're an oppressor because of what you've done and what's happened in the past or whatever. At this point, all people are equal. Okay. And whether we need to rewrite it, I didn't think we needed to, but I'm certainly up for maybe we all board members take a look at this and make some notes on it. And then at the next meeting, we discuss how we adopt whatever motion we take.
All right. And can I keep going? Yeah. Mr. Russo, you start. This isn't normally what we do. I asked Rick if I could do this. He said it's not disallowed. So I'm going to ask if you don't want to answer. You started your comment with a story about a little girl. Did that happen in our county? Okay, thank you. My concern also on all of this is censorship. And I believe that censorship is a very slippery and a very dangerous slope. We've talked in here about communism, like this is communism. We're marching slowly towards communism. And I think a resolution for censorship is a little bit of a march in that direction. So how do we address something that most everybody in this county agrees with without getting on the slippery slope of censorship, and while supporting our teachers in what they're doing? It's been mentioned that maybe we as a board haven't paid attention to what's really going on in our district and are just following national narratives or something like that. And I don't think that could be any farther from the truth, because I know I personally have spent hours in our classrooms and I've talked to dozens and dozens of our teachers and our administrators. And I agree that I've not been in every single classroom every single day for every single teacher. That's just not possible. But I do have 3 kids in the district, and I do stay up to date with what they're doing. And I ask them about their classes, and I've never once seen any evidence of overt political talk in classes and them being pushed. Mr. Glover talked about how his goal was to make sure that people didn't know where he stands. And I've asked my kids, especially in the last few weeks, and their friends, they spend a lot of time at my house, mainly because we live really close, I think. And I asked them, like, tell me about politics in your classes. And they just say it doesn't happen. And they're willing to complain about school. Don't get me wrong. They complain about school all the time. They complain about different things. And so if that was an issue, I know they would bring it up. And I just don't see it. Denise asked, if this isn't happening and nobody wants it, why don't we just start a policy? Why don't we just have a policy that says no CRT? And my answer to that comes from the comment by Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor says, how much more evidence do you need to recognize that CRT is in our class? How much more evidence? And then the evidence he cited was a survey asking kids which gender they identify as. That's not CRT. CRT is critical race theory. And yeah, it has gone in different directions. I've read a lot. There's people that take it this way and take it that way. My concern is if you say we don't teach CRT, anybody at any time can take anything that has to do with race, gender, or sexuality and say that CRT, you can't talk about it. And that's the slippery slope of censorship. That's the slippery slope of censorship that I'm really concerned about. As I said last meeting, I would be willing to look at the Lyon County thing. I think it needs some changes. In fact, I've already started redlining an issue, or started redlining it on how I'd like to change it. And I'd be willing to do that because I believe those things shouldn't be taught as truth. And Mr. Russo said that these things shouldn't be taught as truth. But this is a topic now. This is a national discussion. If our kids are in a political class, we have classes on politics. We have current, classes that talk about current issues. If a kid raises their hand and says, hey, I want to talk about critical race theory. I want to talk about this oppressive versus oppressed because that confuses me. Are we saying that the teacher says, we can't talk about that here? Or are we saying that we want the teacher to not present critical race theory as a fact, that it's simply a theory, that it can be discussed so long as discussed in an unbiased manner, and that it's not being pushed on kids one way or another? If that's what we're saying, I'm good with that. I'm good with that. And I think our teachers would be good with that because they're not doing that. If we're saying that we're not teaching this as fact, but that teachers can lead discussions and have debate and dialogue, I am willing to look at a statement like that. I'm unwilling to say we will blanketly ban CRT because I think it has far too many unintended consequences.
We're still having a discussion here.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think that's, I don't have any problem with the teacher saying, look, this is what some people in our nation are trying to push, and you should be aware of it. But you teach it in that mode. You don't teach it in a mode of, you're superior because you're this, or you're inferior because you're this. We teach it, look, this is what's out there. Just be aware of it. And then I'm fine with that too. So, but you're right. We might have to, modify the Lyon County thing to be clear on that.
I don't, yeah. If you don't mind, if we can finish that, Ross. One other thing, I think it was Denise that said, why don't we have a policy that says we agree not to teach racism? That seems fine, but would that really, there's so many things that can, I think you understand that there's so many things where that could lead that then all of a sudden you have a policy like Lyon County's that is, if anybody's read it, it's been lawyered to death. Apologize, Rick. Not by you, but it's been lawyered quite a bit, and you get something that's a little bit confusing and something that's a little bit hard. Anyway, those are my concerns.
I guess I get concerned with I'm sorry. I guess I get concerned with the fact that everybody's worried about what we're teaching our teachers. I think that we need to teach our teachers what it is so that they know how to explain it if they get asked the question. I don't know that they're fostering the idea, but I think they should know what it is. Okay, I honestly believe that they should know what CRT is, how it functions, where it came from, and that's why I don't have a problem with the PDC offering those kind of classes, as long as they understand that the teachers need to know what it is, because they're going to get asked the questions by the kids. This is nationwide stuff going on here. Okay, it comes down from the President of the United States and his education secretary. Okay, so that's my thoughts.
Well, there's two ways to teach. You can teach like perhaps that curriculum does, and it tends to sway teachers. And most teachers are smart enough probably to see through it. It tends to sway towards this belief that they're trying to teach. And then there's the way of saying, hey, this is what some people are saying, and you can make your own conclusion. I believe those teaching materials might try to sway people rather than just showing the facts of what this position is,
Who's
but
going to make that determination?
well,
Who's going to make that determination?
that's a tough point. I think.
Right.
I think that's why these 4 basic points that are in the Lyon County resolution or legislation can be kind of like a starting point, and then we can use those to make some sort of a policy that we don't want to see something that's teaching what these points are. We would like to see those points educated, but not, I don't know how to explain it, but I think you understand what I mean. It's one thing to teach what some people are teaching here. It's another thing to push that point, say this is the way it is.
So do we know that's happening?
I don't think it's happening here, but I think it's happening in the nation. And I just want to be ahead of it here.
Okay.
Yeah, I want to know, Trustee Kangas, did you have anything you wanted to add to this? I didn't want to forget about you.
Yeah, well, I think I think there's been good points made by everybody. I made a statement last week, and the people that stayed around to listen, it was pretty think that I with CRT, I share some of the same fears. I truly fear censorship. I don't want teachers to be throttled by not being able to teach the facts, and that's exactly, and I think Doug and I were on the same page, the good, the bad, the ugly, but they have to be taught as fact and not biased and not politically ideology. We have to stay, we have to be very, very careful if we're making resolutions or policies. We do have policies in place, just like Heather said. Books can be removed. I would hesitate to do that, but if somebody felt the need to do so, there's a process for that. The public, a teacher, a parent. We don't teach racism. There's policies in place that absolutely forbid racism in our schools. So I could be open to a resolution or a policy, but to me, it would have to be very carefully worded.
Okay, I'd like to say something. Okay, thank you. I also agree with what Heather had to say. I think we already have these policies in place. We don't have CRT in our schools. Excuse me, we had the head of the departments come and talk on social studies and US government. And I tend to believe, I like to side with our teachers. They're the professionals. They're the ones in the classroom every day. We have trouble getting teachers as it is already across the nation. If we start to lay policies and censorship and those type of things, I think it's going to be even harder. I feel that, yes, I think censorship is a slippery slope. I've worked in the school districts for many years. We're a variety of different things. And I've never seen anything that we're speaking about this evening. I also did not know what I can, here, is that better? I can do this, sorry. Thank you, I'm good. Shoot. Sorry. No, I'm so loud. I think we need to trust our school districts that they're doing the right thing. I don't think we should take this out of their hands. And I personally don't think we need any more policies or rules or regulations. If down the road, it can also be a future agenda item, but I'm also in the classrooms like some of you here, hundreds and hundreds of hours. I spend a lot of time in the schools, and I'm here to tell you that I don't see it either. And I think it has been politicized, and we are not a political board. We are all about what's best for the kids and for our teachers as well. And I feel it's my turn to talk. I feel that we would be doing our teachers an injustice if we don't allow them to teach with all the safeguards that we have in place and the policies that are already there. I don't think we need to tack any more negativism on our teachers or on our school district. Thank you. Trustee Lehman.
So Doug, now's the time that there's, I can understand the frustration in wanting to get a motion out and then not getting it out. That happens. There's some, I guess, I don't know if the word's gamesmanship or strategy that goes with Robert's rules. But I would suggest, here's what I'm going to suggest, and maybe you agree with it or not. I think it sounds like there's a couple ways that we can move forward as a board. We could move forward with a Lyon County type way, or we can do what we did last week and just say, we have looked at the process, and we now, at this point in the process, we suggest that at this point in the process, we make a motion to take it off of our agenda as a standing item, which doesn't go either way on CRT. It just says we've looked at it and we're taking it off our agenda item as a standing item. So I'm wondering, before one of us makes a motion or anybody makes a motion, I wonder if it would make sense if we just kind of do a straw poll almost to see which way the board's leaning.
Well, let me see, here's what I'm thinking as far as a motion is. I'd like to make a motion to, and I'm not sure the wording yet, to work on a revision of the Lyon County legislation for adoption by our district. And that would, I don't know, maybe we give ourselves one or two board meetings to look at the wording of it and then finally bring it before the board for a vote, maybe in January or something.
Just talking as
What would have been a
theoretical
motion?
motions. You didn't actually make a
No,
motion.
I'm theoretically making a motion.
All right, so number one, no straw polls. Okay. Number two, remember, we're here
We
to
can't
talk
talk about which way we'd go.
Yeah, once a motion's out. Or, I mean, you can talk, you don't want to do straw polls because that's a vote without a vote.
No, not a straw
So-
poll.
so
Okay.
That's the terminology. you
I
use.
did use that,
Okay.
my bad.
So you got to remember, we're talking about addressing the process used to address critical race theory. So that's what you guys have, that's what you had on the agenda last time. That's what you guys are here to discuss this time. How do you want to go on the process of where you want to go direction wise?
I would like to make a motion
Okay.
that we work on a revision of the Lyon County legislation and bring it back for discussion at the next board meeting. And then for possible action in January. I don't know if that's too vague.
Okay, a motion was made. Does
Can I
any-
offer a request for
Hang
a
on,
friendly?
Hang on. Let's look. Your motion was that we work on a revision of the Lyon County resolution.
So he said legislation,
for-
so I
I'm
wanted a
sorry.
friendly amendment to resolution.
Well, that's what it says on it. It says the Lyon County it says
Resolution.
legislation. So I don't know. if
It's a resolution. Is what it-
Resolution.
Oh, okay. Well, I have the model legislation for it.
Okay, but regardless, that was
Okay.
part A, and then part B is to bring it back at the next meeting or January.
Well, yeah, we
for
bring it
discussion.
back at the next meeting and we discuss the wording to get everybody on board with something workable.
Okay, so motion was made. Does anyone want to second it?
I think we need to know, like, does that, I mean, are we going to get ourselves in the same situation we're in right now?
We can't discuss it unless
Until
somebody
we-
makes a
okay.
second.
Then I don't know what to.
No second? It fails.
Well, no, it doesn't
No,
fail.
it doesn't
That
fail.
means that There's
I'm
no
sorry.
motion that
There was
has
no
been
I'm sorry,
seconded.
I take that back. So there was no second, so. Go ahead, trustee Lehman. Sorry.
I'd like to make a motion that at this point in our process of addressing CRT, that we remove it as a standing agenda item. And if any, I'm just going to put a period at the end of a standing agenda item.
Okay, a motion was made. Does anyone want to second this motion? Seconded by trustee Chichester. Okay, is there any public comment on this? Go ahead, Jeannie, you can go. Go ahead and state your name for the record again. And Nick, you can be second.
Okay, there's two comments I want to make. at
Could
the
you state
top.
your name for the
Jeannie
record, please?
Shizuru.
Thank you.
That consistent with what other people have said, Lisa Schaefer, that, kind of putting the people who come to these meetings who don't have any children in the school district as second-class citizens has been done by Lehman and other people associated with the school district. And that is so ironic to be talking about discrimination or racism. And in the CNN article, it's absolutely egregious. And I don't even know why you're not putting that in your resolutions. You don't treat any of the community members as second-class citizens because they're not a parent, a teacher, an administrator, or whatever. That's really quite egregious for you to do that. And the other thing I want to say, to Heather's point, when you said you take no action, this might be revolutionary to this board. When you take no action, you don't do anything. You don't have any motions. You don't approve. You don't vote. Don't do anything. I think that's a viable thing to do right now instead of taking it off your standing item list. In fact, I don't even know why you would want to take it off your standing item list. Heather, if you want to take no action, tell them that we're not going to take any action. We're just going to leave it where it is. Of course, I am in favor of you looking into the Lyon County resolution and to modify it. That would be perfect because there are a lot of community members that do and will continue to have a concern. But as far as I'm concerned, you don't have enough information. I said that in the previous item where I'm waiting for information about the DEI class that was offered last May to the county, but I have information that all kinds of training materials goes to school districts, and I intend to get to the bottom of all of this teaching material that comes to Douglas County, gets paid for by Douglas County. I don't think you guys have enough information about what is really in your county right now. So taking no action would absolutely be preferable than what you're proposing right now.
Next. State your name for the record, please.
Nicholas Meyer from Gardnerville. I think Mr. Engelkirk has made a very, very reasonable proposal to the board. And I'm very saddened that there was no second to this. The Lyon County School District Board resolution is very clear about anti-discrimination for race, sexual identity, disability. There is nothing in this resolution from Lyon County that is at odds with any policy that this board may have. Now, I hear Heather talking about all the policies that we already have. I hear Mr. Lehman talking about all the policies we already have. Mr. Kangas talking about all the policies we already have. Where are the policies? Show us the policies. Show the community the policies that you have that you believe protect our children from transgenderism, from critical race theory. Until you do that, you have no credibility. None. That is why we are asking for you to put down on paper an anti-discrimination, anti-transgender teaching policy that will allow you to enforce this in this school district.
Okay. State your name for the record, please.
Virginia Starrett. I wanted to respond to a few comments made by board members. One is about the definition of CRT. To act as if CRT is simply about race at this point in time in the way that it has involved itself in our culture is really naive. CRT has now grown to also include identity politics and social justice. So simply to rule against racism, or if you have policies that say something about racism, they wouldn't be adequate to actually get rid of CRT. The second thing I would like to point out, as said by Nick Meyer previously, was, yeah, where are these policies? all this time we've been having these meetings, we've had town halls, you've had packets of information you could have supplied to us. And you're telling us now that you have sufficient policies already in place somewhere in your system that would have stopped CRT. Why haven't you used them? Where are they? What kind of transparency or communication is that? I also agree with Mr. Lehman that you can't simply have a policy that says we won't teach CRT, because again, the CRT is many faceted octopus that you can't just wipe out with a simple statement like that. But you do have activity taking place in this district on diversity, equity, and inclusion. That is the action arm of CRT. You cannot make a straightforward statement that you have no CRT and at the same time be welcoming anything that has to do with diversity, equity, and inclusion. So if you take this vote and decide to ignore CRT for the time being because you're going to maintain it has no effect on your district, you are literally endorsing CRT yourselves tonight. And you are not doing what the community that elected you would want you to do. That community leans right, and there's no doubt about it. And that community doesn't want CRT coming any place near this school. And it's already here, and you're choosing, if you make this vote, to say that's just fine. It's not fine.
For the record, please.
Dave Nelson. You know, we have censorship almost everywhere. We have it in the fact that you're not supposed to yell fire in a theater. However, if there is a fire in the theater, I hope somebody yells fire. And I feel the same way about CRT. Somebody needs to yell fire in the theater about CRT. It has actually been proven to be untrue, the theory behind it. There's a book, it is a book at this point, called 1620, written by historians that goes into the 1619 project and proves it totally false historically. So I think if you're teaching anything that's false in your school system, you should be concerned. And to have a program that says you can't talk about CRT is a good thing, because you're saying if there's a fire in the fire, if you want to bring it up, like Mr. Lehman mentioned, explain that it's false, that it's been proven false historically, and that's fine. But explain if there's a fire in the theater or not, because you should be able to say something if there is a fire, but not if there isn't. And I'd like this board to show some guts and not just shove this under the carpet. I mean, why did we vote for you guys if not to represent us? Right? You're representing the people. You need to take this a step further, not just shove it under the carpet.
Thank you. State your name for the record, please.
Denise Baronio. I'll be quick. Just to clarify, Rob, I wasn't saying don't teach racism, because I do want racism to be taught and discussed because it exists and is part of history. Don't teach kids to be racist, to clarify what I was saying earlier, because I think that, as everyone else has already stated, CRT encompasses so many things that have to do with discrimination. And so teaching genderism, which isn't a thing, isn't biologically a thing anyway, political thing, I don't think that should be taught in our schools. Tolerance, yes, that should be taught. History, 150%, the good, the bad, the ugly. But to clarify, I do think that racism should be taught because it is part of history, teach what happened. But I don't want people to be taught to be racist, just to clarify what I said earlier.
Thank you.
Yvonne Wagstaff.
Thanks, Yvonne.
I understand that right now our teachers are teaching to the state standards, which have been set forth. But as a board, you need to take action because the state is trying to change that state requirement. And we need to have on record what we as a district believe needs to be taught and not taught. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, anybody online?
We have 5 people. First is Casey Rogers.
Okay, Casey, can you hear us?
Can you hear me?
We can. Go ahead, state your name, please.
Casey Rogers. I kind of wanted to direct this at Robbie Lehman because he said some things earlier about what Nick had to say. And I feel like you all are kind of still missing the point when it comes to CRT. I can see that you really don't understand that it's all encompassing. It's really based on a social construct. When Nick said things about the survey that asked kids about sex and stuff like that, it's based off a social construct. CRT isn't just about racism, but its core is to indoctrinate people to believe a certain idea based on a social construct. For example, race is no longer white and black, but that we as a social aspect need to admit that there is white privilege or blacks are oppressed. Racism no longer is black. I think that guy is too black or she's too white. It's literally racism is oppression now, that's what's being taught, that we have oppressed them. The other thing is that a boy can choose to be a girl at 3 or 8 or whatever. It leads to chaos and confusion. They're trying to get acceptance. It's from a Marxist ideology, and he was very clear on that. There is so much to this. You think it's only about racism, but it is not. It is about allowing and teaching what, dare I say it, godless or non-moral people believe in. It's taking biology and saying people can say what's what instead of what's fact. It's taking old science and making new science that's based on, once again, communist agenda. Morality and ethics are void. Okay, that is the whole point. You guys don't understand CRT to the fullest. And that's a problem, especially when you're voting on something like this when it comes to teaching our children. Now, you keep saying that you don't have it in your schools, but I did see the video of a librarian in your school district pointing out books on super feminism, over sexualization, white privileged. So my question to you is, did you see these books, look through these books, read these books? Have you viewed them? If you want what's best for our kids, go ahead and let us know. What have you done to show that there's no CRT, that these things are not being taught? Thank you.
Thank you. Next online.
We have Lynn Faulkner.
Oh, okay. Lynn, can you hear us?
Yes, can you hear me?
We can. Can you go ahead, please state your name for the record?
My name is Lynn Faulkner, and I'm a teacher at Carson Valley Middle School. I apologize for earlier when I couldn't get my microphone unmuted. I have been a teacher at Carson Valley Middle School for over 27 years. I have teach science and computer science, and I'm calling in to support that this topic should be tabled. And the reason I feel this way is I don't understand the need to have a policy to get rid of something that doesn't exist and that we are not doing in our schools. We've had several teachers speak to this, and we don't need a policy to tell us what we can't teach in our classroom, because we already have a policy that tells us what we can teach. And those are the Nevada academic content standards. So since CRT is not a standard, then we can't teach it, we don't teach it, and we don't need any kind of resolution saying, to do something that we can't do anyways. So I have also been to many teacher trainings over the years and recently, And all of the training that we get is all involved with standards. Modern Teacher is all about unpacking standards and teaching to the standards. There's nothing that I've ever been exposed to that's related to CRT. And I just don't see the necessity of having a resolution for something that is not a standard. Thank you.
Thank you. Another person online, John?
Next, we have Lamb, just a first name.
Okay, please go ahead. Can you hear us?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
We can. Can you go ahead and state your name for the record, please?
Yes, I apologize, but most people know me by that. But this is Karen Lamb. I am a teacher at Douglas High School. I apologize for not being there, but I have a newborn nephew that needed my love more than being there today, but I've been at every meeting. I guess I have a few things I just want to clarify. And like I think Amanda Locke said, I don't want our silence to be misinterpreted. So the first thing is the difference between curriculum and then materials in a library. Those are two very different things. And I appreciate that some board members are talking about censorship and curriculum. Those are two different things. Having resources available in a library is very different than prescribed or curriculum that our teachers are allowed to use. And so part of our library, which was discussed at that last school board meeting, was about being a place where kids could seek information. And so I think that that's important, that just because something's in a library or in a class, that's automatically curriculum. I also would like to point out, I hear a lot of words that forced to take surveys, forced to take classes. These are mostly optional things you're all talking about. I want to know where the examples in our district are of CRT in our classrooms. That's what we're looking for, because I think there's been a couple of great analogies. You prepare for a burn, right? You see a fire coming, you prepare for it. You absolutely you do. If we're having a fire right now because we are having a hard time getting teachers, because teachers do feel attacked. I heard someone say that in public, that no teacher has been attacked, which is a bold-faced lie. And then on top of that, we shouldn't then be preparing for the earthquake that's not happening in that moment. And so when you make policies just on a fear, that's not when we're focusing on what is happening with our kids right now. And my third statement just goes back to everything. There's a lot of this, where are these policies? They're in the same place they've always been. If you go to the Douglas County School District website right now, every policy is open for you. I am willing to share everything I teach, as are all my colleagues. So when you accuse people of something and you have no foundation, it is not only unfair, but it's going to make good teachers leave. And my final comment, I'm a little bit confused by Trustee Engelkirk. I appreciate a lot of your discussion that has happened over the course of these meetings. You said that last meeting, you didn't say you believed that CRT was in our schools. You said you did. And then at the end of your statement, you said you don't believe it is. And so I think there should be some clarity there. And I'm glad that all these meetings are recorded, because if I'm mishearing it, I would love to know that. I do appreciate everyone being there. As I said in the town hall, I think discussion is so important, as long as it's respectful and our facts are founded in facts, not feelings. Thank you. And I hope everyone has a great night.
Thank you. We have anyone else?
We have Mary Porter.
Okay, Mary, can you hear me? Mary?
She is unmuted, so.
Mary, can you hear me? You're next to speak. Can you hear me? Okay, sorry, Mary.
Next, we have Katie.
Okay, Katie, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
We can. Can you please state your name for the record?
Hi, my name is Katie M. I'm a school counselor at Powaloo Middle School. And so I have listened to every one of these meetings, and I have been online. I have listened to all the thoughts. I have listened, and I love discourse. I love to know what I don't know. I love to see what people's perceptions are, because perception is reality. So I really love that we're all coming to the table and having these discussions. But if you do a simple Google search, you'll read that the fundamental premise of public education is to help children fulfill their diverse potentials, enable students to become well-rounded individuals, focusing on the whole child and not just mastery of academic content. Prepare students to live a productive life and become good citizens while obeying the social and legal rules of society. That is a simple Google search. We know that you are all speaking from a very narrow scope and perspective, most likely from one of your own political beliefs and experiences. Not many occupations are as scrutinized as teachers, and it is kind of offensive that the new slogan of "What are teachers being taught" in regards to CRT assumes that we as staff are but mere cogs ignorantly transferring knowledge given to us to just piss you all off and secretly enforce whatever beliefs you think we have. Teachers have so much content to get through, especially in the wake of COVID-19 shutdown, with educational lapses where students were left to their home environments to learn, and it was really, really hard. That said, all of your students' curriculum and learning items are online. You can scrutinize, you can read, you can go to Google Classroom, you can look at the learning plans that a couple other people have mentioned. They're all there. We are not trying to hide anything. In fact, in this age of technology, you guys have the ability to see almost everything. I took the diversity, equity, and inclusion class this past summer, and it was a class I chose to take. We were not forced to take, with beautiful discussion and some pretty staggering statistics about how marginalized communities function in our schools. We are to be lifelong learners ourselves, teaching lifelong learners. Why do you as a community get to decide what we as educators learn about, especially if it aids our diverse populations, which is the whole purpose of public education? Diverse populations don't just include race. They include students who require specialized instruction with specialized needs. What if we turned a blind eye and said, oh, nope, that's part of inclusion and diversity, those scary words. We're not going to teach students with diverse needs. Students who come from a variety of socioeconomic needs. That was part of the class. We don't get to choose who comes through our doors. We are a public education system. And I would hope that all of you who say you are here for the kids and advocating for the kids are here for all of the kids. It sounds like you're here for only certain kids who have certain beliefs.
Finish your statement, your last sentence,
Okay.
please.
Isn't it our job to present all sides of society and humanity to students, regardless
Katie, I've
of-
got to stop you. Sorry.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I got to be fair. Thank you for your time. We appreciate it.
Next, we have Cynthia Mahudian.
Okay, Cynthia, are you there? Hello?
Hi, I'm actually Cynthia's son. My name is Bailey Keller, and I'm 21.
All right, go ahead, honey.
I'd like to say, first of all, that I am in support of the motion to remove this from the agenda. But I also wanted to bring up something a couple of people have brought up and equating being transgender or homosexual as a communist value. And I'd just like to point out that in communist countries such as Russia or China, for example, their rules are a lot stricter than ours on being homosexual or transgender, and you can be imprisoned or killed. And so I don't know where it's coming from, where some people are equating those communism and homosexual or transgender values. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
We have Mina Deadman.
Okay. Mina, can you hear me?
Hello there, Linda. Can you hear me?
I can hear you fine. Can you please state your name for the record? And I will tell you, you have 3 minutes and I'll have to stop you then, okay?
No worries. I think I'll be briefer than that. I'm rather unprepared. My name is Mina Deadman. I am a teacher at Douglas High School. Previously, I've taught at Pablo Middle School and Carson Valley Middle School. And I have children currently at Carson Valley Middle, Minden Elementary, and Douglas High. And so I have listened to all of the meetings previously about critical race theory, all of the town halls. And as a teacher in the community, I have never before felt called or brave enough to speak. And I'm a little ashamed of my lack of bravery. But I really was concerned that me speaking publicly would change the feeling, would change the camaraderie, or would somehow infiltrate my classroom. And just so you all know, my classroom is so important to me that I had to really weigh this tonight. But I feel like I just want to express some gratitude. I want to express gratitude to Trustee Lehman. I want to express gratitude to Trustee Jackson for speaking out so eloquently about the policies that we have in place to ensure that our kids are well protected. And I really feel that the motion to table this issue and to no longer have this as a standing agenda item is a vote of respect for myself and for my profession. And it is a vote of respect for the children that I work with every single day. There seems to be a perception that our kids are vulnerable to attack about difficult issues and about controversy and about things that make many of us uncomfortable. And I would wish that everyone could know and could see that our kids are capable of so much empathy and so much curiosity and so much intellectual rigor that this is not something that we need to be concerned about. That really we need to be empowered to be wise, to be curious, and to engage in difficult discussions, because that is how we grow and how we become better. And I believe, and I have tons and tons of evidence of this in my classroom every day, that the kids are willing to rise to the challenge, that they're ready to be critical thinkers and they are ready to ask these questions. So to having a conversation about limiting their expression or determining that certain behaviors or certain questions that they might ask are somehow off limits is counter to everything I believe as an educator. It is counter to what I believe as a parent, and it is counter to what we do. Because what we do is we go in every single day and we welcome and we love and we challenge every single one of our community's kids. And we will stand with them no matter who they are or how they identify, because they're coming to learn. So thank you for your work and thank you for the conversation.
Thank you. Do we have anybody else?
We do have Mary Porter again, if you want to try
right.
that one again.
Mary, can you hear us? Mary? Is she on mute?
She's unmuted.
She's unmuted. Mary, can you hear us? You're next to speak. Oh,
Her microphone must not be working.
I don't think you're, Mary, I'm not sure your microphone's working. Okay. Thank you, Brenda. She can, do we have chat? There's no chat. No, I'm so sorry. She could maybe send it to you and then you could read it. Anyways, okay. I'm sorry, Mary. Anybody else? Thank you for your comments. Nope, that's it. Okay. So I guess we go back to our vote.
Trustee Gilkerson,
Yes.
before you vote, could I please weigh in on this?
Absolutely. Superintendent Lewis?
So there's been a couple things said tonight that I think need to be clarified. The first thing is that there is no evidence that the state of Nevada is looking to add critical race theory, as contrary to what someone has said tonight before you, to the state standards. They were revised in 2018 under the watch of Governor Sandoval when he was in office as the governor, and they will not be, and there has been no discussion to revise the social studies standards in the state of Nevada anytime soon. And as I have explained to you, that is not a overnight process. That is a very long and arduous process, of which there is many points along the way where the public has opportunity to provide input on any proposed changes that would be approved at the board. My second thing I really want to clarify, and I've sat here for two meetings and 2 town hall and listened to a district employee talk about a video that he created. And quite frankly, I had hoped that he would set the record straight, of which he never has. And so I want to set the record straight tonight in public regarding the video that many of the people here tonight have referenced in the reason for some of their why they're upset. First and foremost, Mr. Paul Jensen has never once talked to any district administration prior to creating the video, and in several offers after creating the video. He has not taken us up on that. In terms of the book, The League of Super Feminists, that book has not been in the hands of DCSD employees because the book came into the CVMS library under the watch of this librarian. This librarian could have taken 3 measures. They're notified of what books they are receiving prior to receiving them. They have the opportunity to reject the book prior to ever receiving it. If they receive it and they don't want it in their curriculum or in the library, they can send it back. And third, at any point, and all district librarians and media specialists know this, if they receive material that is questionable or they have any concerns about, they can pick up the phone, call the executive director of education services, and have a discussion about their concerns and then make an informed decision. We have books in our libraries that don't ever make the shelf, but are accessible if a student with parental permission want access to a book. So this book, The League of Super Feminists, has not been in the hands because it never made the shelf at Carson Valley Middle School, as it has been alleged. The level 1 training that we require all of our new teachers to take. It has never been disclosed that the teacher was offered 2 alternative texts at the point of which they raised objection to the material. That's quite clear that that book specifically was not needed to have the discussions that were had in our level 1. As I indicated in the October 13th town hall meeting, I felt it was my responsibility as superintendent to talk to all of our level 1 teachers who were in that training. And I did just that immediately after the October 13th town hall meeting. 42 teachers have responded. 37 of those teachers said they had no issue with the methodology or the materials used in the training. But that leaves 5 that did. 5 that expressed some level of concern with either the methodology or the material. It's never been disclosed, yet it's been disclosed to the creator of the video that I have already directed staff to look at the material and determine if that material is needed, if that's the most important instructional material that is needed for the objectives of multicultural discussions. And finally, the course of diversity, equity, and inclusion. I certainly hope as an institution of public education, the DCSD will always advocate for our employees to be treated as professionals, and we will provide them academic freedom to pursue professional development that is related to their content area and/or improve their knowledge and practice as educators. That course was not required of DCSD teachers. That was an optional course, as is any college or university course that our teachers have the opportunity to take, whether that's for recertification credit or salary credit. I think it's a flawed argument to assert that the content of every course that a teacher can take is evidence of and/or aligns with DCSD's stance, or that teachers automatically teach the content to every new idea they are exposed to. And so I think it's important that that record be set straight, that the content of the video, the author has known for a long time and has not been upfront with the community. Thank you.
Lieutenant Lewis. Okay, does anyone are we ready for our vote, or does someone else on the board like to say something more? Or are we ready to go?
I'll say
Trustee
something.
Lehman? Okay.
Yeah. First thing that was mentioned in public comment was not to treat those that aren't parents as second-class citizens. I was the one who made the comment last meeting that it didn't seem to be a parent issue. And can you hear me? And after that meeting, somebody approached me. I don't see him here. And he approached me in a respectful manner and said, hey, I'd like to talk to you about that. And he said, just because I'm not a parent doesn't mean I don't care. I'm a taxpayer. I care about this county. And I agree with him. I don't agree that just because you're not a parent, you're not a stakeholder. Everybody in the community is a stakeholder. But I do believe that what's being taught to our kids, parents have a lot to say about that. Glenn Youngkin pushed constantly, parents need to have an input. Parents do. Adam Laxalt, when he showed up and gave his campaign speech during the town hall, he said we need to get parents involved. So my only point with saying that is that parents are very interested in what their kids are taught. I don't think that people aren't parents don't have a say. I don't think that they're not stakeholders. I think they are. You have two people in the audience that have sat on community boards. I know that. And I suspect when a development has come before you, you probably listen to the neighbors next to that development with a little more interest than you do somebody who's not next to those developments. That might be a normal thing that you do. I also just want to mention that it was said that we have censorship everywhere and you can't say fire in a theater, and that's true. You can't unless there's a fire. But it's also said that CRT is all encompassing. So I just don't see how we're going to ban CRT, something that's all encompassing. At that point, we're just banning everything because CRT is all encompassing. I would say a few people have got up on both sides and have said, well, maybe not. A few people got up and said, you are not doing what the community wants. You are not doing what the community wants. Well, if you've listened tonight, we've had a wide variety of people talking, And so for me to vote any other way is for me not to vote for our teachers. I've listened to them. I've listened to what they say. I trust them. I trust their professionalism. I trust what they are doing in our classrooms, and I am going to vote to support them.
Thank you, Trustee Lehman. Okay, go ahead, Trustee Engelkirk.
I'll just say briefly that voting to put some sort of policy in place to protect our district from CRT is not supporting our teachers. It's not supporting our students. I think we can do both, and that would be my position on this.
Thank you, Trustee Engelkirk. Anyone else? Trustee Kangas?
I'd like to have the motion restated so there's no confusion in the audience or the board members present.
Okay.
Before there's a vote taken.
Okay, I'd like to say something before we vote as well. I also feel that our teachers go to college for many years and they are the professionals. I feel that my vote would be a vote of respect. Excuse me, sorry, vote of respect and trust in our school district and our teachers. So I will also support a vote of no vote. Or not no vote, but a vote of doing away with this. Okay, can you read the motion to us again, please, Karen?
Mr. Lehman made a motion that at this point in our process of discussing CRT, we remove it as a standing agenda item.
Okay, hang on a minute.
I could not hear that.
That's okay. She's got a microphone now.
Mr. Lehman made a motion that at this point in our process of discussing CRT, that we remove it as a standing agenda item, seconded by Mr. Chichester.
Okay, and a second was from Trustee Chichester. Okay, we'll go ahead and vote. All those in favor, say aye.
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 All those
Aye
opposed?
from trustee Kangas.
Thank you. All those opposed? Thank you. All those opposed? Heather, did you vote? I'm sorry. Did you vote aye? Okay. The motion passes 5-1. Thank you.
I do.
Okay, we're going to take a 5-minute bathroom recess and we'll be back at 22. Thank you. Hey, we need to come back, please. Now? Who are we missing? Oh, Ross, he had to wait. Yeah, okay. All righty, so the last thing here is a public comment. Hang on a minute, let me say my statement. Hold your horses there, Virginia. So this public comment will be comments from the public are invited this time that are not specifically addressed elsewhere in the agenda, okay? So we cannot talk about any more CRT. We're done with that for this evening. But if you have something else that you'd like to talk about, please come forward, state your name again.
It's not about CRT.
All right, honey, go ahead and state your name for the record, please.
Oh, geez. Don't you know me by now?
I do, but we're recording.
Yes, I want to talk about censorship. From statements I've read and heard recently, and even tonight, I've become concerned about this school board's understanding of what censorship means and what role, if any, censorship plays concerning K-12 teaching, resources, and materials. I'm pretty sure the tech devices issued to students have been programmed to prevent students from wandering into porn sites or playing Call of Duty or gambling. Technically, that's censorship. Aren't you ashamed? And let's imagine that a children's book giving instructions on how a child can build an explosive device and blow up a building were published. Impossible, you say. Well, even refusing to publish the book is censorship. And let's go further and say that the book does get published and the publisher puts that book on a list of suggested books to be put in Douglas County school libraries. You'd want that book rejected, right? Geez, what a bunch of book burners. Libraries only hold so many books. Teachers can only assign a limited number of books. What criteria is employed to decide what ends up on the shelf or in the classroom? Whatever it is being utilized to shut out other books. Choosing results in censorship. It's unavoidable. The trick is in deciding where to draw the line of what is suitable for children of different age groups to read, and in deciding what's important for children to have access to. Public libraries in communities can get away with pushing the envelope on, say, children's books that include descriptions of graphic sex, because the responsibility of oversight on what a 7-year-old chooses falls on whichever adult accompanied the child to the library. A school library or a classroom teacher, however, cannot avoid a certain moral accountability for what they make available or assign to students. But is that all the protection the community or students have? Would you allow your 9-year-old to read a serious book that described the delights of cannibalism? Should a teacher be able to assign that book? If you responded no, then I would suggest that virtue signaling, how modern one is by protesting against censorship, is hypocritical and intellectually dishonest. I would also point out that what stands between a teacher and her ability to use unsuitable books or a school library to shelve them are school policies, most of which are set and or overseen by a school board, such as the one I am addressing. Don't shirk that duty in the name of protecting freedom. That's pure poppycock. Thank you.
Thank you. Who would like to speak next? Jeannie?
For the record, Jeannie Shizuru, I again want to repeat, you didn't take a no action. You didn't table the subject. You basically said you wouldn't make it a repetitive subject anymore when it's obvious that the community, that would be all the stakeholders, all the various stakeholders.
Are you talking about critical race? We can't talk about what.
Okay, then let me
critical
talk
race.
about the election, because the vote that you guys took tonight, is that off limits too?
think
was
so.
a good vote for us, for everybody to see after a full discussion about how you stood on just the continuation of the subject.
I think you're still talking about
Oh,
critical
okay.
race.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
You can talk about anything but critical race
About the agenda, that you're talking about what happened. in
on the agenda. So something that's not on our
Not
agenda
on the agenda and not already discussed.
and not already discussed tonight.
Well, I don't have anything else to talk about.
All righty, thank you. Anybody else? Yvonne?
Yvonne Wagstaff.
Thank you.
I just want to, as a parent and as an employee, say thank you. Thank you for listening. Thank you for paying attention to us, for taking notes, for
No, she's not saying critical race. She's just talking about, I know, stop.
I am grateful for a community that listens. I am grateful for a superintendent that cares. I am grateful for teachers that care about my kids. They care about what they're teaching. They care about them as an individual. And I just want to say, if any of them are listening, thank you so much for caring and loving my kids. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. All righty, next.
Dave Nelson.
Thank you.
I just happened to come across the thought and I need to know this answer from the board. Has Tom's Huckleberry Finn been censored from our school system? I've heard it has been in some places.
We can't respond, sorry, during public comment, maybe after, if somebody knows the answer.
Well, if anybody knows, let me know, please.
All righty, thank you.
Nicholas Meyer from Gardnerville. In the interest of full transparency, Superintendent Lewis said that 5 of the teachers that he surveyed had issues with the curriculum that they were required to take.
Okay,
I would request that Superintendent Lewis make that information available anonymously to the community so that we know what issues those teachers had with the required curriculum.
thank you. Anybody online? One? Lucky last, maybe? Who do we have?
Marie Foster.
Marie, can you hear me? Hello?
Hi, can you hear
Hey,
me?
Can you state your name for the record, please?
Yeah, it's Marie Foster.
Thank you.
Is this still the 3-minute?
Yes, it is about
Done.
anything other than critical race.
Right, I listened to your guys' meeting tonight and I'm sure you guys will be seeing a lot more of people here soon, but I just wanted to address like some of the censorship that we're talking about as far as books. Catcher in the Rye, I know, is one that's been censored across boards. I'm not sure if it's been censored here. I would assume that Huckleberry Finn, with the way things are going and the agenda that's being pushed, will be something that the Tom Sawyer book probably will be. But you can find that information out by calling the district and asking for the curriculum person. They have a specific person that deals with curriculum. She's completely in charge of it. So all the parents there tonight, if you can hear me, I would strongly suggest making that call to the district, getting a hold of the curriculum person and asking her those questions because she'll know what's been censored. It's also a very interesting package. I did have to push to receive it a couple of times, but you can ask for the entire curriculum for social emotional learning. And that's definitely worth doing if you're worried about any other agenda pushes that they're currently not talking about. Thanks, guys. I'll see you soon.
Thank you. Anybody else? That's it? Oh, one more. Oh, Come on, Miss Amy, come state your name for the record, please.
Amy Sando. I wanted to bring this up the last board meeting, but it seemed like it was pushed and then I didn't know how to comment on it, but it was the change to our healthcare system. It was the increase in well, you guys know, right? The benefits, more out of pocket, all of that. And I just want to tell you that as a mother of 2 children that are on my insurance, it really will hit me in the pocketbook. My ex-husband is getting a second job solely. He works full time. He's getting a second job solely so he can get insurance for our children. To have the benefits go up where there's more out of pocket. And I don't know where you guys are at. I just feel like you need to hear from a teacher that this will hurt. This will hurt my pocketbook. It's going to hurt my paycheck starting January. And it just really hurts to have some of those benefits go up for family as much as they did, because I will be paying way more out of pocketbook than I did this year. And I already pay a lot. I just want to be heard on that.
Thank you, Amy. Okay. Anybody else online? Meeting is adjourned.